Hugh Freeze has raised the talent level at Auburn. Let's talk about it on this live edition of the Uptempo podcast. Yes, sir. Good evening, Uptempo gang. Good evening, Auburn family. We just got done watching the Notre Dame Fighting Irish take down the Georgia Bulldogs. Blake, I know it hurts your heart to see Georgia fall like that, brother. I know that hurts your heart.
Hey, I absolutely loved it. I put in the chat today. I said, "Hey, tonight we're all Irish fans," and I got some clap back. All right, there's a couple of people in the live chat right now. They know who I'm talking about. I got some clap back and said, "Hey, we're pulling for Georgia," and I said, "What me and you talked about, Dustin?" I said, "There is two teams in the SEC that I do not pull for." Now, if Georgia and Alabama are playing each other, I would much rather see Georgia win. I've been a resident of the state of Alabama for 33 years, going on 34 now, and I just can't pull for that school. Okay. But if Notre Dame and Georgia line up, I'm with the Golden Domers 100%. And shout out to Riley Leonard from right across the bay, Fairhope, Alabama. Huge shout out to him, man. Just a senior getting it done for his football team. And congrats to Notre Dame, Dustin. But first, before we get kicking, I do want to shout out the city of New Orleans, man.
Yeah.
Terrorist attack, whatever they claim it is, or whatever. A tragedy happened, something that shouldn't happen, especially when young people and people from all over the country are on Bourbon Street trying to have the time of their life, and tragedy strikes all because of stupidity. And I'm praying for each family involved. I know the Auburn family lost a member. I know the University of Alabama, they lost a family member. So it's been tough, man. And for me, the city of New Orleans is only 2 hours away, and it feels really, really close to home. I've been to 2 Final Fours in the city of New Orleans, and I've walked that same street multiple times doing the same thing that all of those people were doing. And that's where it hits home for me, man, is like extremely close, and just a horrible, horrible tragedy that occurred in that city, man. And I hate it. We're America, man. We got to stand up and we got to do better. We got to fight back at some point, y'all. But I don't want to, go too far into it and everything. But I want to shout out all of those people that lost their lives, and all the ones that were affected.
Yeah. Terrible. Obviously, the city of New Orleans is very resilient. We'll know they'll bounce back, and praying for all the families involved. Blake, let's talk about some of this football news, man, that has been coming across the wire. One that me and you wanted to kind of discuss what it means for the offensive line. Jeremiah Wright is returning to Auburn along with Dylan Wade. So if you're looking at that starting offensive line, you kind of think, just projecting forward, you got Connor Lew at center, Jeremiah Wright at one guard, Dylan Wade at the other guard. We keep having to bump him out the tackle. But if these transfers can come in, Xavier Chaplin for Virginia Tech and Murphy from USC, and they can anchor out the left and right tackle position, and then Wright and Wade can play that guard spot, and obviously we think Connor Lew will have a massive junior season at that center position, then you're looking at possibly one of the best Auburn offensive lines in a long time, if it all gels together, right?
Yeah, that's why I was so excited about Jeremiah Wright coming back, returning for Auburn. And it was kind of weird because he posted, then deleted, and then posted again. So we were kind of like, what's going on? We were in limbo, and it's good to see him back. You felt like Jeremiah Wright was one of those guys that really had that dog last year. He was one of those guys that in run blocking, pass blocking, all that, man, it just felt like he was one of the guys who brought it each and every week. So I'm glad that he's back. I'm glad that you shored up. Hopefully you shored up your tackle spots, right? That's why we go to the portal. I know we missed the year before with Percy, but it feels like you're trying to make moves at the offensive line, right? A place where Auburn needs to improve, and it's got to be better pretty quick, right? I know we've talked about maybe a change, at offensive line coach. Like, if it doesn't improve, like, we got to make something happen. But now you got young bucks that are in the 2 deep that are going to push. So, we say it. You're bringing Connor Lew back. You got your 2 guards, you got your 2 tackles, but there's guys in the 2 deep that are young. They could also push up for some playing time. There's going to be some competition. All right. What I don't want to happen, Dustin, is us get a week and a half out from the season and hear that Mason Murphy isn't cutting it at right tackle. That's what I don't want to hear, because that's what we heard with Percy a week and a half out from our first game is, well, there's some questions at left tackle. Percy Lewis ain't getting it done, so we're having to slide Dylan Wade back out here. And I'm just sitting here going, man, this is disastrous, because we're 10 days away from our first game, and we're already having offensive line problems. So hopefully Jeremiah Wright coming back. It's another guy, man, with years of experience. Good for him to come back to Auburn and kind of hopefully anchor down this offensive line.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where DeAndre Carter fits into all of it. What jump does he take from his freshman to sophomore year? We know that Hugh Freeze is high on him. Can he crack that rotation? Can he get in there? So I'm optimistic about the talent in this group. And Blake, me and you were talking about this before we hit record. Talent, it's not going to be the talent gap excuse isn't going to work anymore. When you look at that schedule that Auburn's got in 2025 coming up, the only 2 teams that you feel like would still be a little more talented if you were playing EA College Football 25, their overall rating might be a little bit higher, would be Alabama and Georgia. But Georgia just lost their 3rd game of the season for the first time in a long time. And Alabama just lost 4 games for the first time since 2007. I think reality's kind of starting to set in over there on the other side of the state that you might have to be realistic, and 9-4 is going to happen to you sometimes.
Yep.
There's only one of those. There's another Nick Saban's not walking through that door. Yep. And you got both of those teams at home. So you feel like you should be able to make up for that, what will be that little lack of talent gap. And the other 10 games, it's like, man, you're going to be on par talent-wise or have more than, because that's the one thing that we all can agree Hugh Freeze has done. Back-to-back top 8 classes. And he finished off with like a top 15 class in just a month when he originally came in. And you've seen some of the guys he pulled in Connor Lew, Keldrick Falk, Kane Lee, all being big-time contributors. So talent gap is no more, man. And then the quarterback that you brought in, well, Auburn's touting all over social media how highly of a ranked high school prospect he was. And he still only started 9-10 games in his entire career. He's still a young player. So, and you went out and paid the NIL money. This is the second guy you're bringing in for the portal, so you better hit on this one, because Philip Montgomery's not here to blame anymore. Peyton Thorne's not here to blame anymore. The talent gap thing, that excuse is gone, and like that's a credit to Hugh Freeze. He's been the guy that's been bringing in that talent. But as we go into 2025 here, man, at this point, when I look at the roster top to bottom in every position, I'm not, there's no more talent excuse, and there's really not a whole lot of depth excuse. Maybe at some positions, just like there's still some inexperienced depth, but ultimately, man, like not enough to where you can't roll out here and win any less than 8 games, in my opinion. So now you went and got all the guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the coaches now to put them in position and draw up the scheme and draw up the plays and find ways to close these games out and win them, Blake.
I felt like the talent gap thing went out the window this past season.
Vanderbilt, Cal.
Yeah, I don't care how you want to slice it or how many people left in the transfer portal or whatever. Y'all, Cal didn't have a receiver, not one receiver that come close to Cam Coleman. Not one. Or Keandre Lambert-Smith. Not one. Jaden Ott at running back and the other kid they had at running back were not better than Damari Alston or Jarquez Hunter. We can go over to the defensive side of the ball. We can start going down that list. Cal did not have many guys that were better on Auburn's defense. Like, the talent gap was not real. Arkansas, there was no talent gap there. This is a team you beat by 40 in their building last year. There was no talent gap. And it continued throughout the season is Vanderbilt. There's not a talent gap there with Auburn and Vanderbilt. The only two games that I was like, hey, man, I'll give you the talent gap excuse was Alabama and Georgia. Even Missouri, y'all, there's not a talent gap with Auburn and Missouri. There's not.
Yeah.
It's just, are they better than we are right now? Yeah, they're better. But the talent, it's not that far off of talent. We had them beat. So the talent gap stuff, you can kick rocks with all that. I said this to you a while ago. I said this to you a while ago is I'm tired of hearing the excuses. When we go into a new year, it's got to tick up a little bit for me. I'm tired of hearing all the excuses and the body language and hearing, we did this wrong and this happened and he wasn't coached up on this enough and all. There was just always an excuse against Arkansas. Well, if we played them 9 more times, we would have probably beat them 9 times. You lost in your building. We got to stop with all the excuses. It's to a point where it's got to be clean, crisp, and Auburn's got to bring it. And it starts week 1 because guess what? There's no talent gap with Baylor and Auburn. Okay. If anything, Auburn's roster is probably a little bit more talented than Baylor's.
Yeah.
Let's go look up recruiting classes. All right. Auburn's roster is more talented. So we can't be going into 2025 saying all this crap. And it's aggravating to me at this point, honestly. I'm not big on I had somebody get on one of my TikToks I made last year, this past season about talent gap. Y'all, Auburn was not losing games because of talent. They were losing games because of the misfires on coaching and on players. It wasn't because of talent. It was take 2 steps forward, take 20 steps back. 20, not 3 or 4 steps back, 20 steps back. That Cal game was the worst. I would put that on one of the worst Auburn games I've ever attended and had to sit down and watch live.
Yeah.
Absolutely pathetic. It was horrible. It was that bad. I'm sick of it, and I'm tired of the excuses, man. It's got to be better. It's got to be more crisp. You got to put a better product out there. It's got to start happening fast. The ball's got to start rolling, Dustin.
Yeah, I thought that A&M back in 2012 was as low as it could get.
Yep.
And then I thought that Penn State, when I sat there for that one, I thought that was as low as it could get. And then I sat there for Cal. I said, man, it's tough.
Rough.
It's been a tough ride. It's funny when you talk about being crisp. When you say that, I think of, well, doesn't DJ Durkin's operation look crisp 9 times out of 10? Nothing's ever perfect, especially in college. But doesn't the defense look crisp most of the time?
Mm-hmm.
Why is it the offense that looks so discombobulated, so disjointed? It looks disorganized. And I think, Blake, that if that's happening consistently on Saturday, and I said this in our member pod, I think it's stuff that's going on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Yep.
Because if you're consistently looking like you're not organized on the offensive side of the ball, especially in critical moments. And I listened to Bill Belichick on the Pat McAfee show about a month or 2 ago, talking about just how much of an emphasis he's always put on situational football.
Yep.
And I thought, man, could you come to Auburn for a week? And now I know he's taking a job there at North Carolina. But I'm like, dude, can you come show Hugh that maybe fire drills to end the half with a shaky field goal kicker ain't it? Maybe not the route to go.
Yep.
And maybe if you're like on the 25 and you've only got 18 seconds, it's okay to just take the 3. Like, just take the 3. Just play for the 3 at that point. And as we move forward here, I look at that defense next year, and I can't think of a world where it's not elite. I mean,
Yeah.
there could be a situation where there's tons of injuries and all this kind of stuff, and I think that like losing Charles Kelly sucks, but you still got Crime Dog. Q's still going to fill that spot and do okay, and ultimately
Yeah.
it's still DJ Durkin's defense. So I think Keldrick Faulk's going to have an unbelievable All-American type season. I think that Malik Blockton's going to take that next step, and he's going to be a force. I think that Demarcus Riddick's going to be a force. I think you're going to see DJ Barber get onto the field. I mean, and then like what's Jalen Crawford going to be out there? So what's Caleb Harris going to be? Like you have reasons to be excited for guys at every single level of the defense. The defense is going to be elite. So it's on the offense, man. And you don't even the frustrating thing about Auburn over the past decade to me has been the offense doesn't have to be elite with how good these Auburn defenses have been. You just got to score 21, 24 points in some of these Power 4 games, and you can't even get to that. I mean, I was listening to the guys over at Locked On Bama because I'm gonna be honest with you. I just wanted to listen to some Bama podcasts today. I wanted to see what the reaction was over there.
Sure.
First time losing 4 games in a long time. And y'all know me, I'm not trolling. They beat us. This is not a troll thing. I was just actually curious to see like how are they taking this? Because first time in a long time, man. Sign me up for 9-4 right now. But I get it. And so I wanted to listen. And the guy he was talking about how bad Jalen Milroe played, and he said, and if I was Auburn, I'd be super frustrated because we're the only team that lost to bad Jalen Milroe. And I was like, yeah, that's true. That's true. He played terrible. Turned the ball over 4 times, and they still beat us by double digits. So you're getting both your rivals at home. I think every Auburn fan's sick of losing to them. And you have the guys, man. Like you now have the guys to match up with them toe to toe. It's on the coaches to put these guys in the right situation. If Jackson Arnold has all these tools, he can run it, he can throw it a mile, all this kind of stuff. You paid the NIL money. He's the guy that you brought in.
Yep.
There's no excuse for weapons. You've got Singleton. You've got Cam Coleman. We think Perry Thompson's going to take that next jump. Malcolm Simmons is the dog. There's no excuse we got plenty of guys that are going to get open. So it's on the coaches at this point, dude. And it's really, Blake, it's on the freaking red zone. It's really just scoring in the red zone.
I'm glad you brought that Bama stuff up because, y'all, that Bama game, we want to talk about talent gap. We should have been in the game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we missed a 29-yarder right out the gate. I mean, it wasn't even close. Missed it by 50 feet. I mean, boy, we couldn't make a kick all year. But that's what it really comes down to, right? Is execution, play calling. Like, it's got to be more crisp. That's the thing for me going into 2025 is, we were talking about the other day. What do you want to see, man? 2025. I want to see cleanness. I want to see crisp. I want to see everybody on the same page. I don't want to see my quarterback walking up to the line of scrimmage, changing the play every play. And then when something goes wrong, everybody's on a different page. Right? That was one of my favorite things from the 2024 season, right? Is post game after Georgia. The 4th and 2 happened. They said, hey, what happened? What happened there? Hugh tries to cover it up. He says, hey, it was miscommunication. Well, then Peyton goes on Next Round Live and says, whoa. I'm not going to really talk about it. And then 2 minutes later talks about it and says, well, here's the thing. All of that has to stop. All that is Hugh, Peyton, and everybody else not on the same page. And I don't care what media guy wants to come at anybody and say that's not what happened and all of this. Y'all, they weren't on the same page. Nobody was. All right. We got to a point where they were saying that we had 3 play callers. Y'all, the head coach listens to everything that comes through the headset. Hugh's got the final word. All right. So I'm sick of the excuses, man. I saw what you did at Ole Miss with Chad Kelly. I saw what you did at Ole Miss with Bo Wallace. It's time to do what you did there with one of those guys. Bring that to Auburn, man. Does Jackson Arnold have to be some Heisman Trophy contender? No. I would be perfectly okay with Jackson Arnold giving us a Bo Wallace type feel, man.
What if he
I'm not
put up Peyton Thorne's numbers just from a number standpoint this year, and then say maybe add 400 yards rushing because he's much more of a threat rushing.
much more of a threat rushing. I would be okay with the numbers if you would just stop with the mistakes.
Yeah.
Because that's what Peyton, that was for me, it was the mistakes that Peyton made. And they were crucial mistakes.
The times
The timing of the mistakes were like, oh no.
Yeah.
But if you looked at the end of the season, it wasn't near as bad as it was at the beginning. But some of the decisions that he would make, and you're like, hey, don't throw that ball. You're sitting there and you're like, don't throw that ball, don't throw that ball. He threw the ball. And then it's picked. The Kentucky game, all right? Yo, I'm sitting there screaming, please do not throw that ball. Please do not throw that ball. He throws it, picked. It's the timing of the decisions. And yes, I think the RPO, I said it last year in the middle of the season. I think we need to trim down on how many times we run the RPO. I think it's got to come down a little bit. Sometimes I just feel like we get RPO happy, and that was when a lot of the turnovers really happened. I just need everybody on the same page, Dustin. That's what I really need, because I'm sick of watching it, because we watch the defense and we see DJ Durkin running down the field with our guys. They're all happy. And it's like, hey, this looks like two completely different football teams on the same sideline. It's wild to me.
You know, the thing about it is, if you go back to like Cadillac's 4 games as an interim head coach, I don't think that the offense that Auburn was running there was like a sustainable thing. You couldn't like build a program in the SEC off of that. But the boost that you saw, I think a lot of that is just from all of a sudden you had an identity. Hey, this is what we are going to do, and make them stop it. And that's the only time in 5, 6, 7, hell, maybe 8 years that I can think of, I guess going back to 2017, to where I knew what Auburn was trying to do on offense. I've got no idea what Auburn was attempting to do in that Vanderbilt game. No idea what the game plan was there. Do you? Like, what were we trying to do? And that's crazy to me, considering that you had Jarquez Hunter. But again, it's so baffling because you had a receiver that came up 19 yards short of 1,000 yards. I said all offseason, we just need Peyton Thorne to put up Chris Todd numbers from 2009. That's exactly what he did. It's exactly what he did. If we would have put out Peyton Thorne, just put out his stat line before the season and said, take it or leave it right now, majority of y'all would have took it. Then you look and you say, you had a running back go for 1,200 yards.
Yep.
So what happened? Turnovers at the wrong time, penalties, and then just garbage special teams. And that cost you in close games. So Auburn, I want to see an identity on offense, man, where it's like maybe there are some games where it gets shut down. But every Saturday you show up and you know what you're trying to do. And I think this might have something to do with the RPO, is to where you're trying to read the defense every single play and adjust based off of that. And maybe if you're trying to do that a lot of plays, a big chunk out of the game, maybe it's hard to establish an identity. Where I think back to the Kentucky game, and why would Hugh Freeze say in the post game, I had to fight the urge to throw the ball because of what the box was showing me? It didn't matter how many guys Kentucky had in the box. They weren't stopping you. Who cares if they put everybody in the box? Who cares if their cornerbacks lined up right next to their linebackers and they left your wide receivers wide open on the out? They weren't stopping it. Your running back ran for 270, dude. And you had to fight the urge to throw the ball? Come on, man. We got to find an identity, Blake.
I'll tell you all this, all right? There was a team that I just watched. They didn't have an identity at the beginning of the year. They lost to Northern Illinois.
Mm.
They had no identity. All right. But what they did do is they said, hey, we're going to take this loss to NIU, who is a G5 team. Now we have to win out the rest of the season to go to the playoffs. We're going to form an identity around what we have. We know we have a pretty good offensive line. We know we're not that great at the skill positions on the outside. We got a solid tight end. We got a hell of a running back. And we got a quarterback who, not that great of a thrower, but pretty dang good with his feet, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to lean on our guy, Jeremiah Love. We're going to pound the rock with him. And we're going to play quick game, get the ball out quick. We got some skilled guys, but they're not deep threat down the field, right? Get it out to them, let them make some plays out in space. And then every now and then you'll see Riley Leonard, little play action, take a little shot down the field. It's not much, all right? They're not empty set, spread it around 5 wide, all right? None of that. But they formed their offense to what it needed to be. They didn't keep trying to be something else that they weren't. I mean, Marcus Freeman went to the board, man, and he said, hey, look, this is who we are. This is who we got to be. So let's be it because we got a top 10 defense. So all we got to do is play time of possession, which is what they did tonight, since y'all watched it. They said, hey, guess what? Even though Georgia's got a backup quarterback, we're going to keep the ball from you. We're not going to let you have the ball. And we're going to run the football. We're going to drain the play clock till it's underneath 5 seconds. And we're just going to slowly pound the rock and grind you. And that's what they did. It's not none of this from Marcus Freeman. There's no confusion on offense. There's no arguing with coaches or players and coaches going back and forth. It was none of that, man. Everybody was on the same page. If you watch their sideline, that's the way it should be. That is the way it should be. He formed something. He found out early in the season, what we did right here ain't working. I got to do this. And they got in the damn meetings and got on the drawing board and they made something happen. And that is what's got to happen at Auburn. I think Jackson could do a great job with Hugh. I think Hugh could build him up. Like I said, I don't need a Heisman contender, Dustin. I just need you to give me a Bo Wallace. I just need a guy. Y'all, Bo Wallace was not some NFL. We all know that, right? Like, he wasn't a guy that you look at and be like, man, Hugh's going to make this dude millions of dollars. But what you did look at is, hey, Bo Wallace is going to have Ole Miss in a position to win a football game. Like, he was going to have Ole Miss in contention at the end of football games. And that's all I ask from Jackson Arnold and Hugh Freeze is have us there, man. Stop with the confusion and all the mistakes, and it's just people. What they always say is they're throwing people under the bus, right? Auburn's, you got that tag on you now. Like, the media wants to throw that tag on you, so we got to clean it up, Dustin. It's aggravating, man. It's aggravating because I told you this before the show. You know what's really aggravating and it really pisses me off is that Alabama. We said this before the year. We knew Alabama. I did. I predicted them to go 8-4. They went 9-3. And they lost their bowl game. So 9-4. But I knew they were going to struggle. All right. I felt like they were going to struggle. And I felt like Auburn had to take an opportunity, man. Like, there was a huge opportunity for you to not have a better record than them, but maybe come up a game short. Maybe like match what they did. If Auburn would have went, just say Auburn goes 8-4 and goes and wins a bowl game, and Alabama loses their bowl game. That is massive.
Yeah,
that's massive. And you couldn't even capitalize on it, man. You couldn't even go to a bowl game. You lost to freaking Vanderbilt in your home stadium. Like, Sheesh, it's got to be better in 2025. And I see people over there. We can't lose to Baylor, boy. I tell you what, if we lose to Baylor, like I told y'all the other night, LSU just smacked them. So the heat's really starting to turn up. Like you can turn that damn stove and oven all the way up. It's hot.
Whoa, it's gonna be some interesting conversations on the Bayou if Notre Dame pulls out a national championship. Gonna be some interesting conversations on the Bayou if Marcus Freeman brings a natty.
I
Yeah.
completely forgot about that.
Yeah,
Wow.
that'll be a fun discussion. I'm kind of pulling for it just because I want to see how that goes. Let's get to some of those comments before we get out of here. Tim the Toolman Taylor says Vandy did more with less. Florida, more with less. Lots of examples. Absolutely, man. I mean, I was watching. I remember looking at Arkansas in their bowl game a couple days ago, and I was like, how did Arkansas make a bowl game and we didn't? Crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, Vanderbilt. It's so funny. People post all these memes and stuff about Pavia. Pavia played terrible versus Auburn.
Yeah.
Auburn shut Pavia down. He was awful.
What was he, 9 for 22 or something like that?
Something like that, dude. Something. It's the 7 freaking points you scored on offense.
Shouldn't have scored that. I mean, Rivaldo Fairweather had to make a catch off his shoestrings and then break 2 tackles and dive into the end zone. Like, sheesh.
Yeah, Luca says talent is no longer an excuse. Our 2025 roster will be elite. Absolutely. And a lot of those super talented players have got a lot of playing time early. So,
yeah,
excuses. And then you paid a lot of money in this portal to bring in some other experienced guys. And we're at the point where it's like, there's going to be some hits and misses out of the portal, but you got to start like some of the misses you got to hold Hugh responsible for. You know what I'm saying? Like if you miss on Jackson Arnold, it's like, okay, dude, well then you're just missing on a quarterback at that point. If you miss, like let's say Xavier Chaplin, and I think he's going to be okay, but let's say that he can't make that jump from the ACC to the SEC and he struggles, then you're going to look at it and be like, dang, bro, you missed on left tackle again. Like, because we're far along now into Hugh Freeze tenure to where like that's a thing. So yeah, but it's just talent, dude. Like overall rating type thing. This roster, 2025 is going to be the best one Auburn's had in a long time. So yeah, there's not too many games that you're looking at like Auburn's going to be outmanned. Die Hard War Eagle says, is Jackson Arnold going to be a dude or a dud? I'm hoping he's a dude, man. I'm hoping he's a dude. And I know that Hugh Freeze's future at Auburn kind of depends on it, huh, Blake?
It does. Look, what I'm most excited about is I think he fits what you're trying to do. I just need you. The question mark I have is the decision making. Like sometimes when I watch Jackson Arnold, I would just kind of be like, maybe that was because of what he had at Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I was like, wow, there it is. There's the guy that was highly rated, could go anywhere he wanted to, right? I think when you bring him into what Hugh's trying to do, he fits it. I think he is a more athletic, more home run type hitter than Peyton Thorne also. So remember the Georgia play 2 years ago where Peyton broke the long run at Jackson Arnold's house in that.
Right.
All right. There's a difference here. There's a difference. I just need you to be more accurate and more crisp in the RPO game, since that is what Hugh wants to run. That is what Jackson Arnold is familiar with. And we got to wait and see, right? Like, I mean, there's still a competition to be held. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, the spring competition is going to consist of 2 people. So it's Deuce and Jackson will be the only quarterbacks on the roster for the spring. So that's going to be interesting. Doug says he thinks the RPO might be dead. I'm not willing to go that far. I see it being ran successfully across football.
Yeah.
But I mean, who's it? Brooks Austin put out some stats in the middle of the season about Hugh Freeze has a whole lot of seasons of at least 20 turnovers. And it just seems like if he doesn't have the right guy in there, then it goes south sometimes.
I don't think it's dead. You just have to be very, very crisp and precise in what you do with the RPO. I think Tua and the way he ran the RPO was probably the best I have ever seen. I thought Tua was the guy for the RPO at Alabama. But I don't think Peyton Thorne was the guy for the RPO at Auburn. That's the reason I was like, hey, cut it out, man. Like, he's not accurate enough. With the RPO, you have to be super accurate. And you can't be putting balls all over the place to your receivers, right? Hopefully we got the guy. Hopefully. That's why I say cut down on the RPO a little bit. Maybe not take it out of your playbook, just cut it down a little bit.
Yeah. And I'll say this. Don't be scared to use Jackson Arnold's legs. If he can make
Yes.
things happen with his legs, use them, man. Moving the sticks is moving the sticks. I don't care how it happens. We won games with Nick Marshall where he threw the ball 5-6 times. I don't care because we came out of there with a dub.
Yep.
And then Luca, sticking on this point with the RPO, says running the RPO in a very crisp fashion can be our identity. And he says being balanced can be our identity. Talking earlier about me just kind of saying, well, I think we need an identity. Luca says it could be running the RPO the right way. Yeah, that's the thing, Luca. If you run it the right way, then it looks great. But obviously, these first 2 years, it's just been this very jumbled up mess. And I just think sometimes in some games when you were running the ball well with Jarquez Hunter, there didn't need to be any pass or any option. You just needed the R. Like you just needed to call the play where you turn around and hand the ball to 27. And I'll tell you something else you don't need to do. You don't need to run trick plays ever again. No more wide receiver passes. None of them. I don't want any of them. You can take the wildcat. You can take the wild Cox. You can take the wild whatever the hell you want to call it. You can wad it up, dude. You can throw it away. I don't want to see any of it anymore. I don't ever want to see my quarterback lined up at halfback again and then get handed the ball on a sweep to throw the ball out of bounds. It's just too much, dude. And if we're sitting there talking about how Auburn has raised the floor, raised the talent level, well, then there's not even any need to do that, dude. Just find ways to get Cam, Malcolm, Eric Singleton. I think you're going to have a stacked running back room again. I'm excited for all four guys. Find a way to get those cats the ball. You don't need to get cute with it. And Blake, you really don't need to get cute with it when you're already moving the football. Just hand it off, baby. If they're not stopping it, run it right up the A gap. Who gives a shit?
You know, who was it in the playoffs? Was it Notre Dame today that ran the trick play like right out the gate? And or was it no, it was Penn State. It was somebody. Somebody ran a they run their guy into motion and he goes out in the flat, they throw it to him, and then they try to throw back across the field. And I mean, they were just all over it and they were pointing at it. All right. Linebacker was like pointing at it and he was like, hey, they're about to throw it back. They're about to throw it back. And he just chunked it out of bounds. And I was like, why are we doing this? Y'all, it's the third play of the game and we're already trying to run trick plays. All right. You're not fooling anybody. Okay. They have 12, 13 games of tape. You're not fooling anybody with a trick play on the third play of the game. You're definitely not fooling anybody throwing the ball out to Jarquez and him just chunking it. Like, come on, man. You were running and you were throwing all over Alabama on that drive. And even the Vanderbilt game, what a terrible time to call a trick play. Arizona State. That was it. Arizona State. Just right out the gate was like, oh, here we go, trick play. And then I'm like, jeez, I think I've seen it work one time in the playoffs where I was like, oh, wow, trick play worked. But disastrous, man. I just need some togetherness and us go win some games next year, right? I think basketball is holding us all together from just going complete insane and losing our minds over Auburn football. At least we got basketball right now. Hopefully baseball, there's some questions there, but man, it sucks not going to a bowl game. I can tell you that. People can sit here and you can blow it in my face all you want to about bowl games, don't matter. But this sucked.
Terrible,
It
man.
sucked not going to a bowl game. It sucked.
Yeah, it's again, dude. Like it's crazy. It's crazy. Again, 2 of the last 3 years we're sitting here, not even going to a bowl game
Yep.
at Auburn University. It's wild, dude. It's really wild. Let's get to a couple more of these comments before we get out of here. Tim says the discombobulation was embarrassing. I'm going to amend the word was, Tim, and put has been,
Yep.
because we're on our third offensive head coach now where the offense looks discombobulated. And maybe with Gus it didn't look. Yeah, Gus's wasn't discombobulated. It was predictable. It had become predictable. We were fans and we could see the formations and we were calling out the plays. And at that point, I really think back to that Tennessee game at home. I think it was maybe 2016. At that point, or maybe it's 2018, but Tennessee was on a long losing streak, long SEC losing streak. They come into Auburn, beat us. It was this whole thing. And they were calling out our plays. Like you could hear them on the broadcast calling out our plays. So Gus became super predictable. The last two guys, Harsin and Hugh, it's just been discombobulated, man. I mean, we had to deal with back-to-back years of guys of two different head coaches trying a 2-quarterback system. Yep. And then you get told all offseason that, hey, I'm bringing in Derek Nix. That's what really I think is the most frustrating thing about it, Tim, is going back to what we were all told all offseason was that you weren't going to see any more discombobulation. It was going to look nice and crisp. That was why you brought in Derek Nix, was because he was coming in now, and this everybody here you've worked with before, and you're bringing Ken Austin away from being an analyst to bring it into the room to be the quarterback coach, and it's all going to be this one cohesive unit. Mm-hmm. And Hugh talked about that all summer, and then it looked probably worse than it did under Philip Montgomery, to be honest with you. So, yeah, embarrassing is a very good word. And I'm just I'm sick of seeing it. And I'm sick of seeing it and then looking when the Auburn defense gets on the field and it doesn't look that way at all. And I'm asking myself, well, what's going on Monday afternoon? What happens on Tuesday? What happens on Wednesday to where we get into the game, the defense is able to line up right, to execute right, to come out of timeouts and come out of quarters and line up the correct way. Meanwhile, Auburn comes out of an entire quarter break, switching from the third to the fourth quarter, and still can't get off a 4th down play versus Georgia. Yep. And speaking of that, Doug says, I will never forget Hugh Freeze being confused with Georgia's shift on the D-line. One of my favorite Hugh Freeze blunders this year. Doug, guess what, buddy? This happened in the middle of the week.
Yep. We're about to drop that.
It's something that happened in the middle of the week, and then it comes out on a Saturday. And so it just.
We're about to drop that soon as we get done here. I think it'll be a great lead-in point to Dustin's got a heater that he wants to drop. He took 40 minutes out of his day to give you his thoughts on where we're kind of at right now. And this kind of point right here is one of the things that Dustin talks about is what happened that play happened on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, leading up to walkthrough and not being on the same page, not having a cohesive unit on the offensive side of the ball. And if you're a member, I think you will enjoy that.
Yeah, we just got to get organized, man, and everything's got to get to the point to where, I mean, again, just do what they're doing over there on the defensive side, because they don't look like that. And for those things to continue to happen in crucial moments, to continue to happen in the red zone, and I'm never going to understand why this particular Auburn team struggled in the red zone. With Cam Coleman on the outside, with KLS on the outside, with a 1,200-yard back in Jarquez Hunter, with Rivaldo Fairweather tied in, with a guy in Peyton Thorne that you do have to respect his legs. I don't get it, dude.
Because we bring Sam Jackson in the Wildcat. Yeah. That's why. Hey, when everybody knows what's coming, all right, you trot 18 out there and you're like, hey, man, go out there, all right, get in the Wildcat. This is a great play.
Just go work. Yeah.
And you're sitting there in front of your TV and you're like, hey, man, what in the hell are we doing? And Jarquez don't touch it not one time inside the 5. It brings me to I
Yeah.
was live in Knoxville, Tennessee, right? And I think Kalen DeBoer gets a lot of criticism and heat thrown his way. Alabama inside the 5-yard line against Tennessee, a game that they lost. If they would have won, they would probably been in the college football playoffs. They had 1st and goal inside the 5 on the 4-yard line. First play, what do? They throw a fade to Ryan Williams. It gets picked off. Guy sitting next to me, I sat in the Alabama section, by the way. All right. Guy sitting next to me, he looked at me and he said, WTF was that? Because it damn sure wasn't Alabama football. And I said, that might be the first time in my life I've never seen Alabama try to run the ball inside the 5. Y'all, it's not hard. The bread and butter of both programs is to pound the rock. And when you get inside that red zone and 27 is in your backfield, and you're going to have another specimen in your backfield next year, Damari Alston fixed the fumbling problems, got it going late last year. Another guy that you can lean on. Yeah, when you get inside that red zone, baby, feed the horse. Give it to him. I'm one of those guys where as long as I've been on this earth, Auburn has pounded the rock, Dustin. And that is what we have lived on. That is what we have always been about, man, is our running game and our defense. And I know we got the shiny new toys, right? I know we got Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, Malcolm Simmons. But, man, when we get inside that 10, it's 1st and goal on the 8. I just have flashbacks of a Brad Lester, a Kenny Irons, a Cadillac. I mean, you could keep going, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You could keep going down the list of all the great running backs. And we're out here in Wildcat with Sam Jackson. Just don't make any sense to me. It don't make any sense to me for us to even do any of that. Like I don't get it, man. And that's where I'm at with all of this that happened in the 2024 season is it was just a pile of crap, just like 2023 was. It was a pile of crap. And you lost to a couple of teams that Auburn should let's lock in real quick. Auburn should never, ever lose to California. Ever. I'm not talking about USC. I'm talking about California, Berkeley. Never, ever. You should never lose to Vanderbilt. I know the history in the series and back when they played in 1930 and all that stuff with leather helmets. All right. You should never lose to Vanderbilt, especially in Jordan-Hare Stadium. I don't care who their quarterback is. Should never happen. Get it together, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, we're going to get out of here. Hit that thumbs up button. Sub to the channel if you haven't. I want to end off with this one, though. Auburn Athletics 2025 going to be lit. JB1 Khalid says, listen, I know the basketball season is going to be lit. I got faith in the baseball program. I think that Butch is I don't think we're going to have 2 bad years in a row, man. I believe in Butch. I think the baseball program is going to have a bounce back season and be competitive in the SEC. Let's see what the football is. It's 9 months away. But man, I hope it is.
I'm tired of pain, man. I'm tired of pain. I'm tired of losing, dude. You know what? Just give me the feel of I was in Jerry World in 2019. All right. Give me the feeling of Bo Nix to Seth Williams just one more freaking time, man. I just want to experience that live. I want to get back to at least that, man. At least 9 wins. At least giving me freaking hope of something. Of where I can come out of my seat where I was sitting amongst nothing but Oregon fans and they were on my neck. And I come up out of my seat and I said, hey, screw every one of you. All right. We just come back and clapped you. All right. It's a different day, but it's the same story. Just like 2010, we clapped you. All right. Just give me that. I just want to feel some electricity, man. I want to feel some positivity for once. I'm tired of losing.
Yeah, we all agree, buddy. We all agree. I'm tired of making that 3-hour trip up there and then not being able to throw toilet paper in trees. It's a little every time I just get back on the interstate and I look in the back of the vehicle with that toilet paper and I'm like, well, you still back there.
Yep.
I can't wait till I get to toss you up in the Oaks again, man. Hey man, good crowd tonight. We appreciate you guys for locking in. Share this thing out on social media, and it's War Damn Eagle forever, baby.
War Damn, y'all.